I don't get why authors like to make their books long these days. So I have been reading fewer books each month, unfortunately. But at the same time, I read some really big books in the past 4 months. And here's the recap of 4 months of my reading. First book I finished was called The Dragon Republic. It's the second book in the Poppy War trilogy by R.F. Kuang. And it's a huge book. It's more than 600 pages long. I listened to this as an audiobook and it was an amazing experience because I read the first book, The Poppy War, as a physical book. The main advantage of reading in audio format for me, for this book in particular, is that I learned the proper pronunciation of the names of the characters. Because the characters are Chinese, I wasn't sure about how to pronounce their names, but in the audiobook everything was clear. And I was surprised by some of the pronunciation, because in my mind it was very different. The second book continues directly from the ending of the first book. There are so many dark and disturbing scenes in this series, and if you're not into that, don't read it, because there's a lot of gore, and it's not for the weak of heart. Because the second book is way longer than the first one. The first one is almost 500 pages long. The second book is 600 plus pages. I felt bored. I felt some parts dragged way too long. It could have been shortened very easily by 100 or 150 pages. I don't get why authors like to make their books long these days, especially fantasy books. I don't get the trend. And that's all I can say about this book without ruining the first one. Second book I have is another book by R.F. Kuang. It's called Yellowface. I wanted to get away from all the blood and gore in that book, and I listened to Yellowface. It's a satire on the publishing industry, and I felt it was lighthearted, even though the subject matter involves a death scene in the very first chapters of the book. But the tone is way down than The Dragon Republic. So this book talks about two friends who are writers. One of them is a successful writer and the other one is trying to make it in this business. Well, the successful author dies in the very first pages. It's not a spoiler. And her friend steals the manuscript of her next novel and publishes it as her own. And throughout the book we go with her as she's trying not to be caught, not to be discovered as a thief. And she's afraid all the time that everybody will discover that she doesn't have any talent and she's only faking it. I really liked the pace of the novel, even though it slowed down in the second half. But the main thing I really liked about this novel is that even though I know that this woman is a thief and what she did was wrong, I felt like I was rooting for her the whole time. I don't know why. Maybe because she was written in a very good way. I sympathized with her. I didn't want her to be caught, even though I know what she did is bad. It's a really good and engaging story, and for sure I'm going to read anything that this author writes. Next book I read is called A Brief History of 7 Killings by Marlon James. And one thing about this book, it's definitely not brief. It's almost 700 pages long, and it's one of the toughest books that I have ever read. It's written in a Jamaican accent because the main events take place in Jamaica before and after the attempted murder of the singer Bob Marley. Each chapter is the point of view of one character. Some characters are Jamaican and those chapters are written in a Jamaican accent, and it was really hard to read for me. And some characters are American and those chapters were easy. I really liked the way that the author was able to capture the voice of each different character very differently. You will feel that another author has written this chapter. It was really good. I was going to give up on reading this book so many times, but I persevered. I saw it as a challenge that I needed to overcome, and finally I finished it after like 2 months. There are so many things going on. You will be lost and you will not be able to understand what's going on. I thought it was a really interesting reading experience. This book won the Man Booker Prize, I think in 2017. It's not the best novel in my opinion, but I'm glad I read it through. Next book I read is called The Infinite Plan by Isabel Allende. This book tells the life story of a man and tells the history of America through his life in the 1960s. There's so much research that went into this book. It spans a very long time and covers the Vietnam War and how all of that affects our main hero's thoughts and ideals and how they shift throughout his life because of these events. I liked the book, but it's not one of Allende's best books. It was a little bit too long and it dragged a bit, but I learned so much from this book. Overall, I liked this book. Next, I read the second book in the Kingsbridge novels, and it's called World Without End. And I thought for a moment that this book is without end because it took me so long to finish this book. The book is 1,000 pages long or more. I read it on my Kindle, and it took me about 3 months to finish it. Now, was it worth it? I would say yes, because I enjoyed most of the book, even though I really found the first one to be better. The book takes place 300 years after the first one at the same town, which is Kingsbridge, and the same cathedral that was built in the first book. We follow new characters and we follow the politics of this era. It's obviously similar to the first book, but in this one there are new kings, new really detailed wars, and the plague. The plague hits Europe in the duration that this novel is set in. And we see the ramifications of all of these things on the people and the characters in this novel. What I really didn't like about this book was how some characters behave. I thought that characters from the 13th century would not think and behave like a character from our modern world. I thought some behaviors were exaggerated to be closer to the modern human's mind. But overall, I'm enjoying the series, and I'm definitely gonna read the third one, which is A Column of Fire. But I'm gonna pause on this series for a very long time to recover, because all of the books in the series are this big, so yeah, I'm gonna read this in the distant future. Next book I read is called Olive Kitteridge by Elizabeth Strout. This book is a short story collection about a single character. The stories revolve around the main character. Some of them only mention her in name because she's the neighbor of someone or the teacher of another, but she's mentioned in all of the stories. I didn't really like the main character. She was okay. In some stories I sympathized with her. The stories in the collection, they paint a vivid picture of who this character is. I think the writing was really good. For sure, I'm going to read more of this author, and I'm going to read the second book in this series. It's called Olive again, because the main character's name is Olive. It was a quick read for me. It didn't take me long, and I enjoyed it overall. Next book I read is Moonflower Murders by Anthony Horowitz. This is the second book in the Susan Ryland series, and I'm starting to really like Anthony Horowitz's books. This book is not different than the first one. It's an homage to Agatha Christie novels. It's a novel within a novel, and Susan Ryland, who is an editor, she's trying to solve a murder that is connected to one of the authors that she used to work with and who wrote a murder mystery novel inspired by a real murder that happened in the Moonflower Hotel. As in the first book, Anthony Horowitz included 2 novels in this book: the bigger murder mystery that Susan Ryland is investigating, and the book that mimics Agatha Christie novels with the lead detective Atticus Punt. I really loved the book overall. I enjoyed it very much, even more than the first one, and I really can't wait to read more of Anthony Horowitz's books. Next book I read is called Remarkably Bright Creatures. This is a very easy to read, contemporary, kind of a mystery novel. It's about 2 characters and an octopus. The 2 characters are an elderly lady and a young man, and they meet in a very weird scenario. The guy is looking for his father, and the woman works at an aquarium. And in the aquarium, there is a very intelligent octopus that has his own chapters, and he talks with us, the readers. I thought the best thing about this novel was obviously the chapters of the octopus. They were really funny. The rest of the book was okay. It wasn't the greatest story of all time. It was enjoyable. I didn't expect more of it. It could have been better though. It was really predictable. Overall, it was an enjoyable book. The last 2 books I read are My Year of Rest and Relaxation and Exit West, and I read both of these books in a vlog I made. Please check it out. Thank you for watching this far. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and happy reading.